Welcome to the TrialSite News Roundup. Today in our episode, we have an update from the coverage we have done in India. Their fight against the Delta wave, the inclusion of ivermectin into their home medicine kits, and the World Health Organization's input on the matter and the fallout thereafter. We'll talk about Dr. Lenny DaCosta's interview and discussion about what impact ivermectin may have played in curbing the second Delta variant wave in India. Then, for our second story, we're going to talk about the FDA approving the first COVID-19 vaccine. While elation was there for many, some critics, including Peter Doshi, senior editor of the prestigious medical journal of the BMJ, asked the question, why is the FDA rushing? We'll discuss what's happening here. And so, from TrialSite News, I'm Adrian, and our episode starts now. So, TrialSite News has chronicled closely the use of ivermectin-based home medicine kits in India's largest state, Uttar Pradesh, and other states during the second wave of the pandemic starting back in March of 2021. Now, we shared both here and on TrialSiteNews.com that by June, cases plummeted to what is today's far more contained situation. In fact, so impressive was the Indian effort in Uttar Pradesh that the World Health Organization reported on the success, with, however, the omission that state and local health authorities used ivermectin in their aggressive home-based test and treatment regimen. This, too, was also omitted in Western mainstream media, or discounted as not proven by fact-checkers. And so, recently, a prominent Indian physician, Dr. Lenny DaCosta, went on the record to discuss the story of India involving ivermectin treatments there. The top geriatrician, preventative cardiologist, and anti-aging specialist from the coastal Indian state of Goa gave a breakdown of exactly how ivermectin was used and what, in fact, were the results. He also noted that the drug is still pervasively used despite media accounts to the contrary. Now, before we go further, it is important to note that currently the World Health Organization's official stance on the matter is as follows. The WHO advises that ivermectin only be used to treat COVID-19 within clinical trials. The reason being that current evidence on the use of ivermectin to treat COVID-19 patients is inconclusive. They recommend that until more data is available, the drug only should be used within clinical trials. And then, here in the States, the FDA also has issued warnings on the drug, which follows in tow with the WHO stance, as well as additional warnings against the use of the animal version of the drug in humans. Meanwhile, the National Institutes of Health has a more moderate tone, stating that there is insufficient evidence for the COVID-19 treatment guidelines panel to recommend either for or against the use of ivermectin for the treatment of COVID-19. Results from adequately powered, well-designed, and well-conducted clinical trials are needed to provide more specific evidence-based guidance on the role of ivermectin in the treatment of COVID-19. Now back to India. As we have shared back on May 12th, Uttar Pradesh's Director General of Medical and Health Services, Dr. Anshul Parikh, led the state's health department through the COVID-19 crisis and added ivermectin to its large-scale prophylactic program, with a focus on close contacts of COVID-19 patients, health workers, and general care of COVID-19 patients, and eventually an aggressive home care program. Now, by May 30th of 2021, we here at TrialSite News shared the incredible turnaround that the public health officials in Uttar Pradesh accomplished using the ivermectin-based home treatment protocol. Now, while the WHO continued to recognize the incredible work ongoing in India, they still omitted the use of ivermectin in their reports. Now, this of course led to many asking the question, why would such material information be omitted? So now let's turn to the interview with Dr. Lenny DaCosta. Dr. DaCosta shared that the home medicine kits included ivermectin, doxycycline, zinc, and vitamin C, and in fact reported that a new kit is now offered to kids given the higher infection rates among that particular cohort. Now, touting the incredible turnaround, thanks to the aforementioned move by public health authorities in Uttar Pradesh, Dr. DaCosta shared that the rapid decline of the skyrocketing cases was due to the massive public health program, which involved the free home medicine kits. Dr. DaCosta took the position that the key to the success was the ability of ivermectin to inhibit transmission of the virus, especially among household contacts, which seemed to work incredibly well. Now, Dr. DaCosta also spoke about his state, Goa, which backed off from the protocol for reasons which he claimed were other than health care back on June 20th. He also spoke about Western media censorship and material omission as to what was in fact working in India during the second Delta-triggered crisis. This included the WHO's Dr. Soma Swaminathan's issued warnings about the use of ivermectin, which triggered a series of actions and reactions in India. For example, a group of physicians and lawyers filed lawsuits against the World Health Organization's director and WHO for criminal negligence, among other things. This then created significant pressure within the government as the WHO wields considerable clout. And so, India's research institute, the India Council of Medical Research, or the ICMR, took down its recommendation for ivermectin. But that didn't stop some states, including Uttar Pradesh, from continuing to include the generic antiparasitic drug in its public health protocol targeting SARS-CoV-2. Now, this is because while the central government in India wields power, it does not run medical care at the state level. And so, by June 29th of 2021, with central authorities under pressure from the World Health Organization to take down the ivermectin recommendation, states such as Uttar Pradesh doubled down, even introducing a pediatric protocol given the increased number of younger infections. Now, Dr. DaCosta reported that a majority of physician practices use ivermectin at the local level, including himself, across the states in this vast country. He claimed that the successful containment in the second wave was primarily due to ivermectin, doxycycline, zinc, and vitamin C used early on, meaning right when the first symptoms appear. Now, according to the doctor, early care was the key to success in India, turning around the deadly second Delta variant-triggered wave. And so, the war against COVID-19 continues to rage in India. And as always, we'll keep you posted as the story continues to develop. Now, for our next story, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the first COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine has been known as the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 Vaccine and will now be marketed as Comirnaty for the prevention of COVID-19 disease in individuals 16 years of age and older. The vaccine also continues to be available under emergency use authorization, including for individuals 12 through 15 years of age and for the administration of a third dose in certain immunocompromised individuals. Now, this news was met by many with enthusiasm and even elation. However, a growing call for transparency and assurance that the science is correct included Peter Doshi, senior editor for the prestigious medical journal, the BMJ. Now, he discussed several concerning elements about this unprecedented accelerated approval in an opinion piece stating that the FDA should demand adequate controlled studies with long-term follow-up and make data publicly available before granting full approval to COVID-19 vaccines. Now, Doshi, who is part of the coalition advocating for adequately licensed medicines, or COM, has formally petitioned the FDA to halt COVID-19 vaccine approvals this year. The editor is on the record that the FDA needs to slow down and get the science right, that there is no legitimate reason to hurry to grant a license to a coronavirus vaccine. Rather, the FDA should require clinical trial sponsors to ensure that the full set of clinical trial data is aggregated, analyzed, and deemed fully ready. So what about transparency here? Well, we here at TrialSite News have reported that this approval raises concerns for many consumers, including the many public workers that will now be mandated to receive a vaccine or face termination. Critics question whether the FDA accelerated the approval process might have possibly been due to political pressures to overcome vaccine hesitancy by bypassing advisory committee participation. However, the FDA moved forward, declaring that the FDA's approval of this vaccine is a milestone as we continue to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. While this and other vaccines have met the FDA's rigorous scientific standards for emergency use authorization as the first FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine, the public can be very confident that this vaccine meets the high standards for safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing quality the FDA requires for an approved product. The acting FDA Commissioner Janet Woodcock also said that while millions of people have already safely received COVID-19 vaccines, we recognize that for some, the FDA approval of a vaccine may now instill additional confidence to get vaccinated. Today's milestone puts us one step closer to altering the course of this pandemic in the U.S. Now, the FDA went on the record that this approval followed any and all others that follow standard processes for reviewing the quality, safety, and effectiveness of medical products. For all vaccines, the FDA evaluates data and information included in the manufacturer's submission of Biologics License Application, or BLA. A BLA is a comprehensive document that is submitted to the agency, providing very specific requirements. For Comirnaty, the BLA builds on the extensive data and information previously submitted that supported the emergency use authorization, such as preclinical and clinical data and information, as well as details of the manufacturing process, vaccine testing results to ensure vaccine quality, and inspections of the sites where the vaccine is made. The agency conducts its own analysis of the information in the BLA to make sure the vaccine is safe and effective and meets the FDA standards for approval. However, as dossier at the BMJ calls out, sufficient data input is precluded from this approval, and that is not a standard process. Moreover, the FDA does have some conflict of interest challenges. As we reported at TrialSiteNews.com, the U.S. Health and Human Services Officer of Inspector General is looking into the FDA's accelerated approvals and ties to industry. In fact, even the FDA's Acting General Janet Woodcock has called for internal reviews of the process. Of course, this action could just be a false alarm, but such an investigation typically indicates at least some concern. Meanwhile, the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have monitoring systems in place to ensure that any safety concerns continue to be identified and evaluated in a timely manner. In addition, the FDA is requiring the company to conduct post-marketing studies to further assess the risks of myocarditis and pericarditis following vaccination with Comirnaty. Now, these studies will include an evaluation of long-term outcomes among individuals who develop myocarditis following vaccination with the vaccine. And that, my friends, brings our episode to a close once more. As always, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. From TrialSite News, I'm Adrian, and I will see you all next time.